It's Infamous, and today we got the tier list for air superiority. I know we told you it was coming out later on, and today we're going to be presenting it to you. Now, I'm not going to go over every plane like I did in the TDM and elimination. We do have every plane on the list, obviously, but we're not going to go over it in the details like we did with the TDM elimination list because there's no need. If you guys want, I'm going to be posting that video up here in the link up here in the top right hand corner, so you guys can go there, see that video if you want to know more about the plane in specifics. We are going to try to make this a shorter video just so that everybody understands kind of what these planes are used for in air superiority and why I have them where I have them, but we are going to try to make this a shorter video altogether. That being said, there are some important things to note. Every plane in here is to be considered level 8 with its level 8 ability. That is that is just a given. Same thing with the TDM elimination video. And also, I want to make one kind of main point about air superiority, and that is any plane on this list, just like the TDM and elimination list, any plane on this list can in fact work for air superiority because it's more about your timing with your rotations into and out of the cap circles because it's not about what you kill necessarily in air superiority or how much you kill. It's about the timing in which you do it and how you're capping. Killing in air superiority is good. You should do it when you can, but I wouldn't go out of my way to do it over capping a flag or a capture point, right? So just keep that in note. And also your team makes a big difference. You can have a bad plane, but if you have a good team, and you're just doing your job with that plane, it's going to make a big fat difference in the end. So I do kind of want to make that note just before we get into this list so that you understand that there's more to this than just, oh, is that plane good or is this plane bad? There's a lot more to it in the grand scheme of things. But with that said, let's hop into D. So in D, this is going to be probably no shock to anyone. We have the F-111. And for a lot of the same reasons that it was D in the TDM elimination list, it's going to be D here too. It's slow. Yeah, it has fuel reload, and I said that in the air superiority list, it's going to be important to have that special ability, elevate ability. But honestly, it doesn't do much for the F-111 because it has no gun. The missiles take a long time to lock up. It's sluggish. The F-111 is right now it's just in a bad place. There's better options. So I can't really go for this plane. Really in any category or in any mode other than maybe low trophy levels where it is easy to do well. Let's go on to see. We have the F-18F and the MiG-31. Now, the F-18F, probably nobody is surprised to see this plane here on this list at this time, but the MiG-31s, people might be surprised at. The MiG-31, the main reason why it's here is because while it is quick and it has a fair missile loadout, it is better than the F-111, mind you, but it can't turn really, and sometimes you need to be able to, once you get to a cap, stick on the cap, right? You need to be able to throw your people off, and that is not what this plane does. This plane, it just goes straight. It doesn't like to turn. You don't want it to turn. If you start turning with this plane, you're going to die. Once if the MiG-31 can stay high and dry, it loves it. Once you start turning, bad. Um, F-18F, this plane just it gets too slow too quickly. And what I mean by that is it has no trait. The level of ability is gun cooling. It's not going to get anywhere fast enough, soon enough. It just it has no way to keep up speed around a map, which you're going to need on several of them. It's just not preferable. The missile system is okay for sub, but other than that, I just don't like it. Moving on to B. Here we get into planes that are much more usable. However, again, for various reasons, and we'll go through them, they're just not optimal. There are better options. F4, it got better with the buffs. Like I said, the system is great, but it's not the best option. If you're looking for a heavy fighter option to capture flags, there are better ones. The Su-30, better F-18F, but it's pretty much in the same boat as the F-18F. Sluggish. There's nothing to make it better for getting to caps or from caps. The gun is better, and that is huge. Su-27, kind of same boat, really. It's not necessarily that it's slow. It's not slow. It does have HP regen, but it's just not necessarily any better at getting to caps, right? When we're talking about getting to caps, that's the main focus of our superiority. This one, kind of like these, just not any better at it, and the HP regen doesn't do anything for you. M2K, quick lockup on missiles, that's very, very nice, and hard-hitting punchy guns, but you make one or two turns with this plane and you've lost all your speed. I cannot put this plane higher because it loses too much speed in corners. And in an air superiority fight, you cannot be losing speed. It needs mods. This plane needs mods, and we're not taking mods into account in these comparisons, both in the TDM elimination and in this. We cannot take mods into account. The M2K has to be in B for me. It just does not tend to do well in an air superiority setting when a lot of turning is involved. In the straight and narrow, like when you're just going straight, the plane's fine. It is fine. Like it moves, it gets up to speed, it is fast, it has good acceleration. But as soon as you get into a turn, ah, that plane's horrifyingly bad. The F-18, better, I think, than the Super Hornet in the sense that it has a rapid fuel reload that is very good. However, the F-18 is still not fast. It doesn't get to places quickly. Um, and this is a little bit of a problem that you're going to see with like the Hornet series, for example. Their top speed's not really great. It gets there, it has some nose authority, and it can do relatively well from time to time, but it's just not there. There's better planes, right? There are planes that just do its job better. The gun is not optimal, the missile system's not optimal. Yeah. Su-22 and A-10. Both are attackers, and attackers we know are strong in meta right now, and the A-10 is not bad by any means. But we're going to start with Su-22 here. I don't like this plane for air superiority, and why this plane dies on speed too much. And I know like you have to modulate your speed, you have to really be careful of how much you use at certain times, and you can fold your wings back and become faster. But why would I play the Su-22 realistically, other than for just the rear cannons, which can be difficult at times to aim? Why would I play that when I can play the Su-34 realistically? Um, Su-34 is, in my opinion, just a better variant of the Su-22 for when it comes to air superiority. So I really feel like the Su-22 kind of takes a back seat to the Su-34 here. Kind of the same thing with the A-10, although the A-10 is a bit of a different beast, but it's just too slow. If you do die, if you do get killed off of a capture position, usually it's this thing tends to take central, like a B cap or whatever. The A10 just takes too long to get back to that cap. Where a Su-34, if it got killed off, could just be back to that cap relatively quickly, not really a big fat problem. Where the A10 takes longer, and when you're out of rotation, the longer you're out of rotation, the more out of sync your team can become. It just becomes an issue. So I just, for those reasons, the Su-22 and the A10 for me kind of fall in that same bracket of workable, but there are better options. I just don't care for either. All right, moving on to A. Here we got a laundry list of planes. The F-15, Su-33, Su-35, F-14, J-20, Su-34, A-6, J-35, F-35, J-10, F-5, MiG-21, MiG-23. Top it off. The F-15, probably one of my favorite, what I would call like your standard heavy fighters, right? This thing can just hold its speed, get around, and while it's not great in TDM and elimination, for air superiority, this thing actually is kind of a beast at air superiority. I really don't dislike this plane. It could be better, right? I know there's some things the Starform could do, and this isn't the video to go over that, but there are some things the Starform could do to really kind of round the plane off a little bit better and make it more user-friendly in the long run. Again, not over-buffing it by any means, but just making it better. The Su-33, solid plane, good where it's at. Maybe a little bit better power to weight would be okay with this plane. But other than that, I mean, where it's at right now as far as their superiority goes, it does fine. It works well. I have no issues with it. Um, again, the AS and the S options are better, but again, for what it does and for where it's at in the meta, I think it's fine. Su-35, Cadillac of the flankers, has to be an A. It does well. It gets around caps. It's fast. I mean, it's fine. F-14, very versatile, deserves A all day long, in my opinion, for superiority. There are some maps where it's not so great on. There are some maps where it's very dominant on, and it really depends upon the team composition on the enemy team. But this plane does relatively well in most situations for me. I do not hate it. J20, for me, this plane, now that the buff has happened to it, I feel like this plane plays an entirely different role. This plane is a sentinel and a herding plane. Like it can kind of move teams around, and it is fast. The stealth abilities now with air superiority, because you're not trying to shoot all the time, but the fact that this plane can with the 360-degree look and shoot is just massive, and it makes this plane really just different in the meta. And I think that the buff to this plane kind of made it extremely user friendly in the higher levels of gameplay. Base levels of gameplay, yeah, like lower level, like lower tier, rather trophy levels. Lower trophy levels, it works, but it really comes into its own when you start playing with higher level teams in the higher trophy regions of the game. Man, you are going to see this playing a lot more, I feel. Su-34, again, I mentioned it. It's just better. It's just a better Su-22/A-10 in a lot of ways. I feel like for air superiority, this plane just kind of dominates. A6 here, for one very specific reason, has the radar jam ability, which can really help your team. You might not think that, yeah, it's a big deal, but that radar jam ability for air superiority, when people can't lock you up fast, they have to go to guns, where their team may not have an A6, you can still lock up with your missiles. It gives your team a kill advantage, and that might help you gain a cap or two. So that's kind of huge, and the A6 is able to do that. So for that reason, it really is A for me. It is not as fast as the Su-34, but it can still get around, and it's still very dangerous. So yeah, by all means, the A6 deserves A in my opinion. J-35, very good medium fighter. I feel like it's solid. It's fast enough, turns well enough. I mean, by all means, it should be an A. F-35 rapid fuel reload, it gets around. Stealth, again, you're not shooting missiles all the time. When people can't lock you up, you're just as well, right? Like that, that's a bonus. Solid. It gets there. It's relatively fast, fairly nimble. It can stay on a cap. I liked it for air superiority. Again, there are some better options. J10, high off boresight missiles, super solid. Has decent power to weight. Does lose speed in corners, though not as bad as the M2K, hence why it's an A and the M2K is not. F5, MiG-21, again, I feel like they're very similar and they play the same. And for air superiority, that's no exception. They can stick on a cat very well. They're very annoying to play against. They're very mosquito-ish. They're not the best mosquitoes, let's be honest, but they are very good at what they do. And the fact that they can just rapid fire missiles off with with the F5's ability, can rapid fire missiles off. The MiG-21 can just naturally do it without its ability. The MiG-21, though, with its afterburner ability, can just get to wherever fast. Very, very useful. MiG-23, very, very good in the head-ons. It doesn't turn well. It doesn't like to turn. Um, and it just has a certain kind of presence, though. Like when it shows up and it can gun whatever, plane can just do well. It can just do well, and so I tend to like this plane a lot. And with this flare burst ability, it tends to get away with a lot of stuff. So yeah, A. AS, we see kind of a diminished list from the TDM and elimination, but different planes altogether. A lot of medium fighters you'll notice. The Typhoon, the F-100, the Viggen, the F-106, the MiG-29, the Mirage 3, and the GR-3. Typhoon, super solid all the way around. Rapid fuel reload, just beautiful plane. I talked about it in TDM elimination. I'm not going to go into it here. Solid choice. F-100 rocket pods, medium fighter. Sign me up, coach. Viggen, it's an attack buster, and it has rapid fuel reload. Like, let's go. It's not super slow. I wouldn't call it the fastest Delta Wing, but it is decent. F-106 nuke. Like again, it's not a slow plane either, and it has relatively fast lockups on its missiles. Like again, this plane is just kind of meta now with the changes and the fact that it has that nuke, and we are taking into account that it has the nuke. MiG-29 here, it has rapid fuel reload. It gets around. It's beautiful in the sense that it can do whatever. It can point its nose better than a lot of the other flankers here, except for maybe the Su-35. But it tends to be a little more snappy than the Su-35, like on the get up and go. It has a little higher power to weight, so its acceleration from a dead stop or whatever, it can kind of just move a little bit better, I feel. And so for that reason, I put it up in AS versus the A, because it also has rapid fuel reload. Mirage 3 rocket boosters. Like, let's go. Rocket boosters, when I want them, they're there. So useful. This thing oftentimes gets to caps first. It is the plane. Nice frontal guns, fast lockup on missiles. What's not to love? GR3, rockets now kind of crap, but as far as the GR3 goes for capping ability, this plane can get around, and that is what's very important in air superiority. We've already talked about it. This plane gets around, so AS for this plane I feel is a solid state for this. It is not, again, not the best, but it will work. The IR missiles are kind of meh. Like, they work, but they take a while to lock up. Like, if you don't get that thing perfectly in the center of the reticle, they take a while to lock up. It's just what it is. But other than that, like, yeah, the GR3 definitely workable. The brace for impactability is very useful in tunnels and stuff like that, especially when you're going to get hit with a lot of munitions in a short amount of time. Yeah, GR3. And then finally, we hit the S category. And we have the ADV, the Su-25, the A4, Su-57, F-22, MiG-19, F-16, F-1. A lot of these, you'll notice, are very same as the TDM and elimination tier list. The ADV, absolutely broken. You should definitely be using it for both TDM and air superiority. This thing is just beyond solid. 225, still completely broken, in my opinion, as we talked about in the TDM elimination. A4, solid in the meta, great acceleration, rocket pods, can't go wrong. Air superiority all day long. Su-57 and the F-22, because we're not focused on the killing aspect of things, both these planes fly almost identically to each other, with I think the Raptor being just a little bit faster. Like, I feel like it retains the speed a little bit better. But both of these are solid air superiority planes, and with stealth, and if you're not shooting a lot, you don't lose the stealth trait. I mean, planes are gonna have to get a lot closer to fire on you now. These planes are just solid. MiG-19, that buff, incredible, right? This plane now is an amazing light fighter at any level you have it at. I would tell you that this, for both TDM and air superiority, is just an absolute crazy plane. F-16. Air superiority, in my humble opinion, is where the F-16 is just an absolute dominant monster. This plane has acceleration. This plane has the ability to maneuver and pretty much outmaneuver whatever else. Why would you not pick the F-16 for air superiority? This plane just does so well. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of missiles. Yeah, the gun is weak. But if you're just looking at capping power, this plane can not only stick on a cap, stay on a cap, and hold its speed while doing the whole capping job, but it tends to just get annoying to people that are trying to play against it, because very few other planes, unless they have an F-16 of their own, very few planes can really counter the F-16 well. You know, maybe like a really good F-5 pilot, or maybe a MiG-19 or an F-1-ish maybe can kind of annoy you, but other than that, they're gonna have to, like, someone's gonna have to catch you out with a missile or something to really like get you or whatever. The F-16 is just crazy good. F1, to round the list off here, and we're going to talk about the Su-47 in just a moment, but the F1 is still solid, still fast, escape artist, all that goodness. It's just a solid choice. Like, the head-on, it's, still quick. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the F1 as far as capping power goes. It's still a good light fighter. Definitely able to be a menace. I mean, again, everything on the top row is just really good at getting to caps, staying on caps, not really easily countered by anything else except for anything else on this row. Yeah, these planes here could offer some kind of counter to them if they're caught out, but they'd have to really be caught out. You know what I mean? So the Su-47, a lot of people are like, hey, I didn't see the Su-47 on the TDM and elimination list. I'm talking about it now because I don't have the icon for it. You see, it's not here. It wasn't here at all on their on the site. Is what it is. It's too new. I would put it in A probably. I've seen people playing it. Granted, there's reasons for why that plane wouldn't be higher, but in my personal opinion, from how I've seen it being played, even by good players, I think that the plane honestly is just A. I don't really think it's higher than A. I don't think it deserves to be higher than A. There might be people that disagree with that. That's fine. And let me know in the comment section if you agree, disagree, if you think the plane should be moved here, or if you like the list. And until next time, pilots, clear skies.